Jordan Deyrmenjian. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, great. How would you say it?
Deyrmenjian.
Deyrmenjian. So there we go. And so you're the founder, president, CEO of Artin Properties.
Correct. Yeah, that's me.
And I tell you, I'm really impressed in what you've done with this company because this is a big property management company, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we manage 210 homes here in Vancouver, Seattle area, Victoria, Squamish, Lower Mainland. Uh,
Wow. And I mean, 210 homes, and a lot of these homes, you started off with Airbnb.
Correct. Yeah, I started off in actually renovation. So I renovated my late grandfather's home that he had left. At the time, the goal was to flip the home. The market had come down in the single family category in 2018, and the only way to cash flow with the home, but also have it available to show, was to do short-term rentals and to live in it while also renting it out to people. And I fell in love with the process, fell in love with showing my city to people that were from all over the world, and started to build a little business by putting my name out there and hustling and trying to get more clients.
And as a realtor, the Airbnb thing's fabulous because it gives people options.
Yeah.
So if you're in between wanting to keep the place and wanting to sell, Airbnb's great because you're not committed to a tenant moving into your place and you can never get them out once they move in.
Yeah, exactly. I usually like to explain to clients that the furnished rental route, let alone the short-term rental route, gives you a bit more utility if you have an interest to have access to the home. So because you're not committed to a year tenancy, you have options to rent it for 3 months at a time or less. And you're a bit more flexible. Let's say you want to end up selling it, you want to possibly move back in yourself, or you want to put some relatives in the property, maybe in between tenants. You keep the control of your property, and that's of interest to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean I've done that for myself with you. And
Yeah.
and by the way, everyone, Arden does a fabulous job renting your home out. So I mean I've sent countless clients over to my friends and clients over to you, knowing that they're going to be taken care of. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. No, you're a big reason as to how we were able to stay afloat amidst all these regulations the last year and a half. So
Well, and that was, I mean, holy cow. I mean, all of a sudden you're making money doing Airbnb, doing quite well, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you built a big bit, like a big business. How many employees did you build up in a short period of time?
Well, 2020 is when I got off the ground, went from one property to five, and 2021 we ended the year with 30, and then 2022 it was 100, and 2023 we were at 180, and by 2023 we were doing 10 million a year in top line sales, and that was the year the regulations hit. Since then, we've been able to sustain our revenue in 2024. We didn't grow too much, but we didn't necessarily lose any business. So we have about 25 people that are on payroll, and have about another 20 that are contracted daily between maintenance technicians and cleaners, people that we use to operate the business and sustain our quality. That's really been at the forefront of keeping us in business. And
Okay, hang on, stop, 1 sec, stop. Did like 25 people you hired?
yeah.
Okay, and how old were you when you did that?
I think the team's the biggest it's ever been now, and we're at 25, but by the
I mean,
time I
this
was
is this all happened in a short period of time. You're 27 years old.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, this is almost like you've done a lifetime of work in a very short period of time. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's felt that way. It's felt like a journey. It's definitely been a marathon, and I know we're only getting started. But by the time I was 25 years old, I had about 15 employees here in the office. Was leasing a 2,000 square foot office, and yeah, it did all happen very quickly. And I tell people all the time that the hardest part of my job is being acute and being ready to perform every day. Your company, the business as a founder is only going to be as good as you are, right? So you got to make sure you're constantly learning. You got to make sure you're constantly developing as a leader, as a businessman, and just in general. So
Well, there you go. I mean, this is great. I mean, and this is really good, not just like I wanted to dive into sort of the policy with air, like the rules that have changed with Airbnb, but I mean, for anybody that's younger wanting to get into business, if they listen to this, they're going to learn a lot. So thank you for sharing all this information.
of course,
Let's get into so David Eby said no more Airbnb.
yeah,
And so all of a sudden, you've had to change your business to do more like 3-month rentals.
yeah,
And then you're doing full-time rentals too, furnished and unfurnished.
yeah.
You've created this amazing platform, Artin Properties, where it's like that. I looked at it and basically it does everything.
Yeah, I mean the new direction and mission for my company is just to make renting easier for people. I can get into explaining the regulations here shortly, but what these regulations did is they didn't make Airbnb outright illegal. They just made it so it's more difficult to obtain a license and operate a short-term rental legally. So what that meant for my company is the depth of the market became much more shallow. I couldn't grow a short-term rental company here locally to the extent that I wanted to or originally thought I could. So for me, the logical pivot was to get into long-term rentals. We had built property management skills doing short-term rentals, and that easily translated into long-term rentals. But when getting into long-term rentals, I realized that we'd give our own properties that we manage an inherent advantage if we focused on the issue in the rental market. And that issue to me is renting's too difficult. The platforms most people use are Craigslist and Facebook. These platforms, they're not meant for rentals. One's Craigslist. It's archaic. It's been around forever. Hasn't had much innovation. And Facebook Marketplace is the extension of a social media app. So I thought, okay, we're going to be managing these homes. I know we do a good job and we're getting referrals. Why don't I focus this next year on building a platform that we can continuously build on that gives our properties an advantage and make ourselves more of a tech company. So that's what we did. Our platform's done great. We've done about 600,000 in sales on it the last 3 months, which is a promising sign that it's functional and people trust it. But yeah, really now the focus for our company is to, of course, grow our service companies, grow the long-term side of our business, grow the short-term side of our business, but ultimately make it so when people come to rent with Artin Properties, they find it easier than anywhere else. And that should be able to grow our business, right? I always, you mentioned advice for younger people. To me, it's always objective value. Everyone acts in their own self-interest. They're only going to work with you if they see you as the best option. And usually being the best option means you're going to make them more money or you're going to make their life easier. So, we inherently can do both, but focusing on making the rental process easier is where we find our time is best suited.
And then so like I'm just thinking right now, Airbnb, lots of changes, and I've heard some rumors, and I've heard, I've seen the news that they're going to allow it again.
Yeah.
When is that going to happen?
Yeah, I don't I think that was circulating just because there's a bit of a blowback this summer with less inventory on the short-term rental market. Now some of these districts and municipalities are seeing the consequences of just less economic activity. But I'll just explain the short-term rental rules very quickly. There's two changes that were made that essentially explain the whole legislation. So the legislation is called the Short-Term Rentals Accommodations Act, and it was enacted by the provincial government. Usually short-term rentals are governed by municipalities, but the provincial government took action, which was, essentially novel in a market like this. And what they did was they did two things. First is they made a principal residency requirement province-wide, unless the subject district or municipality had a population of less than 10,000 people. So if it's less than 10,000 people, you don't need that rule. You're exempt from the regulations. But for places with more than 10,000 people, it needs to be your principal residence. And what does principal residence mean? Verbatim on the province's website, the principal residence is the place you live more so than anywhere else. So, just that rule alone is conflicting, right? How are you supposed to rent out a place where you live? It's really only what they're trying to do is make it so the only people that can get licenses to do short-term rentals are snowbirds, people that leave the city, the country for an extended time during the year and want to make use of their home. Firefighters that work 4 days on, 4 days off, or people just in dynamic situations where maybe they're going to visit relatives across the country, whatever the situation is. The next rule that they changed, or the next rule that they made, was they changed the definition of a short-term rental from an accommodation that's less than 30 days to now an accommodation that's less than 90 days. That's the one where I had more of an issue with. The midterm rental market serves a big purpose here, especially in the Vancouver area. Anyone in need of the hospitals and the infrastructure that comes with the medical care in a city like Vancouver. Maybe you live in the interior and you have a surgery or some sort of cancer treatment. Now you're forced to either rent hotels or commit to a place for 3 months if you're looking for more of an authentic style living, like a condo or single family home, right? I think over the last decade, with the emergence of Airbnb and making it more accessible for people to rent homes, you've seen a consumer preference. You've seen customers prefer a home for whatever reason. It's oftentimes it's situational, but a home gives you a lot of different things than a hotel. It gives you a kitchen. Sometimes you have a deck or a backyard, and you're often in a neighborhood where it's similar to living in the city, right?
Yeah.
And these are just things that you don't get with hotels. And a lot of these benefits that come with actual homes play into some of these more just unfortunate or critical situations where people do need 30-day rentals, and now those options are just much more limited, and the consumer pays, the customer pays. The whole goal with this legislation was to bring supply from the short-term rental market to the long-term rental market in hopes to affect the affordability crisis. Basically, with supply coming over to the long-term rental market, they were hoping prices go down. Province-wide, there's about 20,000 short-term rentals, and in the city of Vancouver, there's about 5,000 to 6,000. Even if you were to convert 100% of these rentals into the long-term rental market, it would hardly do a dent to prices. Short-term rentals is essentially the low-hanging fruit for the government to point the finger and say, this is what we're doing to help the affordability crisis, when really, much more action is needed. You need to make it a lot easier for people to build. There's a substantial amount of inventory that needs to be added to the market in order for prices to come down. And it's not just short-term rentals that should be targeted, especially with a blanket legislation like this, where you're basically making two rules that wipe out the market and have people thinking that it's just outright illegal when that's not the case. It's just much harder to do.
You know, what's interesting is I did Airbnb that you managed, and you know, one family came in, there was a fire in their home
Yeah,
and they needed accommodation, and it was like a family, you know, four people in the family. Well, they're not gonna rent a hotel downtown for like $500 a night for 2 months.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's really not just like the travel industry, right? It's people in compromised
yeah,
circumstances or situations that just want to rent a home. Um, and yeah, like
and
you said,
another person that came in, a young gentleman, and his came in because he was getting cancer treatment, and he was here for 3 months, and he has a house in Mission, but
yeah,
instead of driving to Vancouver, you know, every other day for cancer treatment, he was close to the hospital. Um, you know, it's funny because I've seen rental prices go down, and I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but I've seen on some of my own rentals, long-term rentals I've seen prices go down 20% this year from last year.
yeah.
And so we always see everything's in cycles. And there's a lot of rentals available right now. Do we have a problem with a rental supply right now in the city?
Um, I think there's just I wouldn't say there's a surplus in inventory, and but what I would say is that people just can't afford it anymore. Um, there's people. It's a tough time economically. There's a ton of economic uncertainty, political uncertainty, and people just can't afford these rising rents year over year. And um, I don't know if prices have come down 20%, but the the status quo of it going up 10% a year or whatever it's been the last decade has slowed down for sure.
Well, I've seen it where, you know, I had a place that was rented for $2,500 a month last year, and it's being rented out now for $2,050.
Yeah,
I've seen places, I had another place that would have rented out for 2,200, it's rented out for 1,800.
yeah,
A lot less. Well, first of all, there's no foreign students,
yeah, yeah.
so that's a
There's just
big
less demand.
less demand. Okay, so I got a couple questions for you. FIFA and Airbnb announced a partnership.
Yeah,
So in 2026, Vancouver is going to be hosting 7 games with the World Cup.
yes.
How is Vancouver going to accommodate all these people coming in without Airbnb? And Airbnb's a sponsorship. So do you think Airbnb will be allowed in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I foresee some exemptions being made. I don't think that we're going to be able to cater to the demand that comes in for a global event like FIFA. As it stands, we obviously don't have um, the inventory or the supply of hotels that's going to suffice the amount of people that are attracted to the city during that time. But as it stands, there's been no announcements made for that plan. Um, but you look only a couple months ago to Taylor Swift, and tons of people were finding ways around these laws and taking advantage of the influx of demand that was coming in. So yeah, it'll be surprising that the province definitely has more tools to enforce these legislations today than they did even a couple months ago. So I am also going to be all eyes and ears to hear what kind of announcements come into play as to how they plan to support people that want to stay in this city during that time.
Well, I mean, if the city wants to make money, you know, when people come into town, they're supporting, well, first of all, your business started up on Airbnb that was, you know, that was hiring probably 50, 60, 70 people at one time, cleaners and all these type of people,
Yeah,
you know. I mean, this is an industry and the city just shut it down and there's consequences.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It didn't come up out of nowhere, right? Like I said, the general public, you know, a lot of them have a preference to rent a short-term rental. For whatever reason, it's not just travel. It's like I said, these uh, I think people don't understand the necessity for when people are in compromised situations or in some sort of transition in their life, they prefer to get back into a home. They don't want to be in a hotel for an extended period, weeks on end, let alone, a couple months. They want to rent a home that's similar to theirs in most cases, and now that those options are extremely limited.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, I think it's ignorance with the government thinking that, oh yeah, we're gonna take these, not allow Airbnbs and it's gonna fix the problem. And the basic problem was we just got out of COVID and there was a ton of money out there. Everybody was traveling, everybody needed a place to live. And we had foreign students coming in like crazy. And then all of a sudden, no more foreign students, no more money because Airbnb's down. Like I've got a place up at Whistler, and I mean it's not booked up like it was last year or the year before.
Yeah, yeah. The demand is down on all fronts in rentals. I think uh, there's just not a lot of business activity happening in Vancouver. There's not a lot of things attracting people to the city like there once was, and that's playing into the market too. But Vancouver will always be a beautiful place. The geographic diversity here is unlike anywhere else, and that obviously still brings people. But yeah, we're we're not as business prone as we once were, and that's playing into things for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully the government smartens up and says, let's welcome business. I mean, that's what pays the bills.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's it's either that or you beg for it, right?
Well, there's lots of
You
those
look for
people
handouts.
downtown.
You either go get money or you ask for it. So um, the pendulum will swing like it always does, and uh, I think Vancouver will be in a good place because it it attracts good people. People want to live in a nice area, and the only people that can afford to live in a nice area are good people.
So, Jordan, we're coming up to our 30 minutes, and so I've got two questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, what advice do you give to, first of all, entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs?
The advice I'd give is know yourself. If you have a skill, leverage it, and if you don't have any skills, create skills. People want to work with you based on competence. If your competence is what creates value. So for me, when I was a young kid, I only had so many skills, but I knew I was someone who would work hard and that I could enable trust. So I leveraged those skills. I hustled and I sold people on my hustle, and that's all it took for me to get off the ground. But I'd say for everyone's different, and I'd say for other people, if you have a skill, lean into that skill, um, and create some sort of leverage with it. And if you don't, learn. Um, find something that you even have the smallest of interest in, get better and better at it, create a gap between you and the average person, and then make use of that gap. Sell yourself, bet on yourself. um, it's crazy what can happen after a year of hard work, if you really devote yourself to bettering your life. And I think you'd be surprised just by taking that first step forward, and then continuing on from there and not giving up.
There you go. I mean, that's an excellent advice. Now, the other question is, for those that have rentals right now and they can't rent them out, what can you do to make your place stand out in the rental market?
Yeah. I think getting amazing marketing materials is worth it. The vast majority of homes, they don't have any standardization to how they market their places. So it could be iPhone photos, it could be iPhone photos that are from a product that was sold 10 years ago, right? And for your property is always going to land in a demographic that can afford it, but it's going to appeal when it's shown in its best light. So for us, we do 3D Matterport tours on all of our properties. About half our properties on our website right now have them, and over the next couple months, we're looking to get closer to that 90 and 100%. And it just makes it so the customer, the person who's looking to rent the home, can see it for what it actually is, and has all the information they need to rent it. You're not going to be able to hide a rental. At some point, they're going to want to see it, and see it for exactly how it is, and it'll go to the right person. So transparent marketing and putting no limits to your media, getting the best photographers is something that we value highly here at Artin.
The other thing you do is, like, I mean, you work with, I mean, when I've referred you to a client and a good friend of mine, and I mean, you went in there and just fully furnished the place.
Yeah.
I mean, he just said, here, just do what you need to do. You went in there, made it look fabulous, and it's rented out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
well, he had a game plan. He knew that he wanted to have access to his property. Um, let's say if he needed to come back to Vancouver. So in order to do that, we needed to offer it to the furnished rental market. That's the market that rents it for a transient period, a couple months at a time. And yeah, you want to make the property as appealing as possible. And that's why I went the direction with media there, because not every home is offered as a furnished rental. If it's unfurnished, right, you gotta do what you can with the property. But if it's furnished, of course, there's always an ROI aspect to what investments you make with the property, whether it's furnishings or renovation. But you want to make it as desiring as possible. That's what's going to make it stand out. That's what's going to make it so you have the most people looking to rent it, and that's what drives your prices up.
there you go. Well, that's awesome. Jordan, you've done an amazing job. Congratulations. For anybody out there, Artin Properties, check it out. I mean, I'm impressed. And when he says, oh, he talks like he's been doing this for many, 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 many years, and you have. But like, I've been selling real estate for 30 years, and I've got something to learn from you. So good on you.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a heck of a journey, and I think we're both just getting started. There's you've been doing this for 30 years, but there's a ton of life in you too. So I'm
Well, I'm
excited.
taking vitamins, and I got a young family, so.
Yeah, exactly. You got to take care of yourself.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, and for everybody out there, like I said, Jordan, he's awesome. Reach out to him if you want to rent your properties out. He's the guy. All right.
Yeah, you
Have a
could
good
check
one.
us out at artinproperties.ca or Artin Properties on Instagram.
There you go. Good stuff.
Thank you.